The city of Vorin 5 gleamed under two suns, its metal spires piercing the violet sky like the claws of some ancient predator. Citizens of the planet scurried below in a haze of light and shadow, their faces tense with the fear of the sudden proclamation. The announcement had come from the new ruler, a towering alien with 4 arms and eyes that shimmered like molten silver. She had declared over the city's broadcast a simple ultimatum: kneel or die. His armor was scratched and dented from previous skirmishes, yet somehow he carried himself with a quiet confidence that made the alien's declaration seem almost absurd. The crowd gasped. Whispers rippled through the masses. Humans were known across the galaxy for adaptability, cunning, and sometimes foolish courage. But standing before the High Commander of Vorin 5 without kneeling, that was more than courage, that was madness. The human's lips curved into a small smile. "Try me," he said, his voice low but steady. The High Commander's 4 arms flexed, and the air seemed to hum with raw power. She had destroyed entire fleets before breakfast toppled governments without mercy. And yet here in the center of her grand plaza, a single human stood tall, unbowed. "Do you understand what you face, human?" she hissed. Her voice, amplified through the plaza's speakers, rolled across the city like a storm. "I am not one to tolerate defiance. Kneel, and perhaps I will let you live. Resist, and I will make your death unforgettable." "We don't kneel." "Very well," the High Commander said finally, her voice cold as the steel towers surrounding them. "Then die, human." The human lifted his hands, empty, unarmed, and took a single step forward. The energy wave struck him head-on. Time seemed to stretch. The crowd expected him to be thrown back, broken, maybe even vaporized. But he didn't even stumble. The energy met him like a wave against a cliff, and then it bent. Around him, twisting, splitting, dissipating harmlessly into the air. A silence heavier than any explosion fell across the plaza. The High Commander's eyes widened. She had seen this before. Humans were resilient, yes, but never like this. "Impossible," she whispered. The human's smile widened. "Try harder," he said, and with that he moved. It wasn't fast, not in the way the aliens measured speed. It was precise, controlled. Every step seemed deliberate, every motion calculated. The crowd saw it as a human walk, but in reality it was a storm condensed into motion. The High Commander raised her hands again, energy flaring hotter, brighter, the sound like 1,000 shouts of fury. But still, the human advanced. The city's surveillance drones hovered, recording every second. Analysts back on Vorin 5 council ships would later argue over how a single human had survived something that should have killed him instantly. Some theorized he had the rare human gene for energy absorption. Others suggested sheer luck, though most admitted they didn't understand it at all. The human stopped just 5 meters from the alien. He lowered his head slightly, a gesture that was neither bowing nor submission. It was acknowledgement, a statement: "I see you, and I am not afraid." "You dare approach me?" The High Commander growled, the energy in her arms crackling louder than before. "I dare more than that," he said. "I survive." But again the human didn't flinch. Instead, he sidestepped, his body flowing around the force, almost dancing with it, until the punch missed and slammed into the plaza ground, sending a shockwave through the tiles. Small fissures appeared where the energy met the stone. The crowd erupted in awe. Even the most loyal followers of the High Commander couldn't hide their astonishment. A human had stood toe-to-toe with her might and lived. The High Commander's fury turned into fascination. She had ruled planets, destroyed armies, and yet this human, he was unlike anything she had ever faced. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the city. He finally spoke the truth that had been burning in the minds of those who had heard stories of humans across the stars. "I am what your species fears most," he said. "I am human, and I don't kneel." They were unpredictable, clever, and terrifyingly resilient. And this one was a master of their own rules. The city held its breath. The human and the High Commander circled each other, energy crackling, the tension almost visible. This was more than a fight. It was a demonstration, a declaration. Humanity had arrived on Vorin 5, not as a conquered species, but as a force that could not be intimidated. From the shadows of the plaza, other humans watched. They had infiltrated the city in secret, agents and soldiers of a hidden fleet scattered across Vorin 5. Their mission had been to observe, not confront. But seeing one of their own stand unbowed before the High Commander, seeing him survive attacks that should have been fatal, it lit a fire in their hearts. Somewhere in the command chambers high above the city, the Vorinian Council murmured anxiously. This human was different. If one could survive the High Commander's wrath, what chance did any Vorinian have? The human's smile remained. Calm, confident, unshaken. "Your move," he said simply. The High Commander's forearms lowered slightly. She wasn't defeated, far from it, but something had shifted. She would not underestimate humans again. That much was certain. Above the city, the suns continued their eternal arc across the sky. Below, the citizens whispered, eyes wide with fear and awe. A new chapter had begun, one in which humanity's name would echo across the stars, not as weak, not as subjugated, but as a species that refused to bow. And the first human to defy the High Commander smiled, waiting, ready, unafraid. The city of Vorin 5 stretched across the horizon like a metallic jungle, its towers gleaming under the twin suns. Streets ran between the skyscrapers like rivers of metal and light, crowded with aliens of countless shapes and sizes. Citizens moved with hurried, nervous steps, their eyes constantly flicking toward the sky where banners of the High Commander fluttered in the harsh wind. She had arrived only a week ago, declaring her rule over the planet with the single, terrifying command that still echoed through the plazas and squares: kneel or die. The crowd had gathered, a sea of glimmering eyes and wary tentacles, expecting the usual outcome. The people would bow, trembling, and the High Commander would smile as her power was unquestioned. But today was different. In the middle of the plaza, standing on a raised platform of black stone, was a human. He was alone. His brown hair was cropped short, his armor scuffed from travel, and his boots were dusty from the journey across the harsh desert outside the city. His eyes were calm, clear, and unnervingly steady. Around him, the crowd murmured, whispers of disbelief rippling like wind through dry grass. Humans were known for bravery, yes, but no one had ever seen one face the High Commander without showing even a flicker of fear. The High Commander descended onto the platform in a whirl of glowing energy. Four arms flexed with power, her silver eyes flashing like molten metal. Her skin shimmered with patterns that shifted in the sunlight, and every movement made the air around her hum with authority. She looked down at the human, and her voice boomed across the plaza, amplified through the city's speakers. "Human, kneel, accept your place or die instantly." There was no tremble in his voice, no hesitation in his stance. "Try me," he said quietly, a small smile playing at his lips. The plaza froze. Citizens stared in shock, some covering their mouths. A few younger aliens whispered among themselves, excitement and fear mixing in their voices. A human daring to defy the High Commander? No one had survived that long without kneeling. The High Commander's silver eyes narrowed, her lips curled in what could almost be called a smirk. "You have courage," she said, her voice sharp as a blade, "but courage will not save you." The ground shook, dust and debris rising around him, yet he remained unmoved, his armor absorbing the shock. The energy waves bent around him as if repelled by some invisible shield, dissipating harmlessly into the air. The crowd gasped. This was impossible. Some had witnessed humans in skirmishes before, but nothing like this. One alien scholar muttered, "He should be dead." "Do you understand what happens to those who defy me?" Sparks flew in every direction as the bolts collided against an invisible field around him. The crowd erupted into murmurs and shouts. They had never seen such resilience. The High Commander's eyes widened. Fury and disbelief mingled as she launched herself into a flurry of attacks, her four arms moving faster than any alien could normally control, each strike a potential death sentence. But the human flowed around the attacks with precise movements, his feet barely touching the ground, his body responding faster than instinct, like water bending around rocks in a stream. "Impossible!" the High Commander hissed. She had destroyed fleets, toppled cities, and annihilated armies with ease. And yet here was a single human, dodging blows and surviving energies that should have vaporized him instantly. The human's smile did not falter. "I told you," he said, "humans don't kneel." Some aliens whispered prayers, others cursed under their breath. The sphere shimmered and pulsed, and the human's smile remained. He took a slow, deliberate breath and then stepped forward. The sphere cracked and collapsed under his presence, the energy dispersing harmlessly into the plaza. The High Commander staggered back slightly, not from pain, but from the realization that this human was different. Her silver eyes studied him, scanning, calculating. He was not just a brave fool. He was strong, clever, unyielding. And he was human. From the shadows of the crowd, other humans watched silently. They had infiltrated Vorin 5 to observe, not to engage. But now they could see their own kind defying a ruler who had crushed entire worlds. A fire ignited in their hearts. They exchanged glances, understanding without words, Humanity had begun its claim here, and it would not bow. The human took another step forward. His movement was calm but intentional, a statement that said, "I am here. I will not fear you." The High Commander's energy crackled, more intense than before, a storm ready to strike. She released a wave of energy directly at him. The human ducked, spun, and in a motion that seemed almost choreographed, the attack passed him by without touching him. Every alien watching realized the same thing. Humans fought differently. They did not rely solely on raw power or strength. They used intelligence, intuition, and adaptability. Every motion was calculated, yet it appeared effortless. And most terrifyingly, they were unpredictable. The High Commander's forearms lowered slightly, a mix of curiosity and irritation in her posture. She had been certain of victory, yet the human stood before her unscathed, smiling faintly. "Who are you?" she demanded, voice tight with tension. The human's eyes met hers, calm, steady, unflinching. "I am human," he said simply, "and humans don't kneel." This human was not merely defiant. He was something far greater, something that no alien force had anticipated. The human's smile widened slightly. "Your move," he said, not a challenge, not a threat, a statement. His presence alone was a declaration that humanity refused to be dominated, that fear and intimidation would not bend them. The High Commander's eyes narrowed. Her power was unmatched, yet she had never faced an opponent like this. Not one who could survive, endure, and move through her attacks as though they were nothing more than air. She felt a strange mixture of respect and irritation. She had underestimated humans, and now she would need to reconsider everything she thought she knew about them. The plaza was silent again, save for the hum of residual energy in the air. The humans in the crowd straightened, hearts racing with pride and excitement. Across the city, citizens watched in awe as the first human to openly defy the High Commander held his ground. Above, the twin suns moved slowly across the sky. Below, the metal streets reflected the light, casting long shadows across the plaza. And at the center, the human waited, calm and confident, a living symbol of resilience. The crowd understood what they were witnessing. A single human had faced the greatest ruler Vorin V had ever known and had not bent. Humanity had arrived, and its defiance would echo across the stars. No one moved. No one spoke. The air seemed to vibrate with tension, waiting for what would come next. The human's smile never left his face. He stood ready, unafraid, a testament to the power, courage, and spirit of his species. The High Commander raised her arms again, but this time her mind worked differently. The encounter was no longer simple. It was no longer about crushing a weak being. The human before her was something new, something she had not anticipated. And for the first time in her life, she felt the stirrings of genuine fear, not for herself, but for what humanity represented. The first human to stand unbowed against the High Commander of Vorin V smiled once more and waited. And in that smile lay the beginning of a story that would change the galaxy forever. The plaza was still, the hum of residual energy fading into the afternoon air. Citizens of Vorin V dared not move, their eyes fixed on the human who had just defied the High Commander. He stood tall, calm, and unafraid, and for the first time many of them questioned what they had always believed, that their ruler was unstoppable. The High Commander's four arms glowed with fresh energy. She had underestimated this species, and she would not make the same mistake again. She stepped forward, moving faster than any alien should have been able to. The ground beneath her feet cracked under the force of her power, and the air seemed to vibrate with raw energy. Her eyes, molten silver and piercing, locked onto the human with focus so intense it made the surrounding metal structures shiver. "You have survived what no living being has survived," she said, her voice echoing across the plaza. "But your luck ends now." Dust and debris swirled in the air, creating a haze through which the human stepped forward as if nothing had happened. The waves of energy split as they reached him, curving harmlessly around his body. The crowd gasped again. A few aliens fainted, unable to comprehend the display of defiance and skill. One Vorinian elder whispered to his companion, "He cannot be human, it's impossible." But those words were drowned in the gasps, murmurs, and the faint hum of the city's energy grids. The human lifted his hands, showing them empty, and stepped closer. The High Commander's eyes narrowed, suspicion and fascination intertwining. She had destroyed planets and armies, yet this one being stood before her, unarmed and unbowed. She flexed her arms and launched a flurry of rapid strikes, a storm of raw power and lightning-fast movement. Each strike was precise, each attack designed to end him instantly. And yet he moved through them with fluid motion, dodging, sidestepping, and sometimes letting the attacks pass so close he could feel the energy brushing past him. It was not only speed that saved him. It was anticipation, intuition, and the uncanny ability to adapt to patterns in real time. The crowd watched, unable to look away, mesmerized by the almost unnatural precision of the human's movements. The High Commander hissed. "How can one being survive like this?" she muttered under her breath. Her fury was growing, yet alongside it came a strange spark of respect. She had not seen this kind of resilience before. Her energy blasts grew more intense, their destructive force rippling outward in visible waves. Tiles cracked and nearby structures trembled. Citizens clutched at one another, shielding themselves from the shockwaves, while still watching, captivated. The human continued to advance, slowly closing the distance between himself and the alien ruler. He wasn't reckless, every step was deliberate, calculated. His calm presence was like a force of gravity, drawing attention and admiration from the crowd. Every motion challenged the High Commander's assumptions about his species. From the shadows, other humans emerged. They had infiltrated the city in secret, scattered among the citizens, disguised as traders, laborers, and even officials. Seeing their comrade unbowed, they felt a rush of pride and determination. A silent signal passed between them. It was time to act. The High Commander noticed this shift in the crowd. Her eyes narrowed as she sensed not just one human, but many moving strategically through the plaza. "So you are not alone," she said, her voice carrying a note of irritation. "Your species is more numerous than I thought. That will not save you." He was about to demonstrate that. With a sudden movement, he reached for a small device attached to his belt. It was compact, sleek, and hummed faintly. He pressed a button, and a field of shimmering light spread across the plaza. Energy readings spiked, and the High Commander froze momentarily. Something about this device interfered with her attacks, deflecting and diffusing the energy she projected. "What is this?" she demanded, eyes flashing. "Humans plan ahead," he replied. "We don't just survive, we prepare." Citizens ducked and hid, but many watched in awe as the human-led tactics unfolded before them. The High Commander's anger reached its peak. Her attacks intensified, creating shockwaves that shattered the plaza's tiles and sent shards of stone flying. She attempted to overwhelm the humans with pure power, striking in every direction, moving faster than the eye could follow. But the humans anticipated her moves, exploiting the rhythm of her strikes. They were not equal in strength, but they were equal in intellect, timing, and courage. The human at the center stepped forward again, closer to the High Commander. His movements were calm, precise, unshaken by the chaos around him. "You rely on fear," he said. "We rely on action." Citizens whispered in awe. They had lived under rulers who ruled by fear, yet here was one human who stood unbowed, unbroken, and intelligent in his defiance. The implications rippled through the crowd. If one human could do this, what could a species united achieve? The High Commander's silver eyes narrowed further. She realized this was no ordinary challenge. Humanity was different. They didn't rely solely on strength or technology. They relied on mind, spirit, and adaptability. And this human, with his calm confidence, was the embodiment of everything her species had underestimated. He reached into his armor again, pulling out another device. This one emitted a low hum and released a cascade of light into the air. The effect was immediate. Energy waves from the High Commander slowed, their intensity diffusing as the device interfered with their cohesion. She lashed out with her arms, but the attacks now felt fragmented, less controlled. "Clever," she admitted, her voice tight. "But cleverness cannot save you forever. One moment is enough." They were a force that the High Commander had not anticipated, not because they were stronger, but because they were unpredictable. The plaza trembled under the intensity of the standoff. Tiles cracked, metal structures groaned, and the citizens' whispers became a chorus of awe and disbelief. The human's calm presence contrasted sharply with the chaos, a beacon of defiance and courage. The High Commander realized that raw power alone would not win this battle. Every attack she launched was met with adaptation, anticipation, and resilience. She had faced many foes before, but none like this. None who could survive, analyze, and counter with such precision. The human smiled faintly. "We humans survive by thinking, not just by fighting," he said. "And we never kneel." Small devices flared to life, disrupting the High Commander's attacks, giving their leader more room to maneuver. The plaza was now alive with movement, strategy, and defiance. Citizens watched in awe as humanity's cleverness unfolded before them. The High Commander's fury mingled with a new sensation, respect. She had underestimated humans. She had assumed fear alone would rule them. But fear did not govern these beings. Resilience, intelligence, and courage did, and that realization was frightening. The human stepped forward, closing the distance further. His eyes met hers, unwavering, filled with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds and refused to back down. "This is how humans survive," he said softly, but the words carried across the plaza. "We don't give up, we adapt, and we endure." The human's smile remained calm and confident, his devices humming softly at his belt. Around him, hidden humans moved strategically, demonstrating coordination, courage, and cleverness. The battle was not yet won, but the message was clear. Humanity would not bow, and the High Commander's reign would be challenged in ways she had never imagined. The air above the plaza vibrated with energy, the twin suns reflecting off the metallic towers and casting long shadows over the shocked crowd. Dust swirled through the air from previous blasts, and cracks had formed in the stone beneath the human's feet. Yet he stood tall, calm, and unwavering, his eyes scanning the battlefield like a general assessing his army. Hidden humans moved with precision among the citizens, carefully avoiding detection while activating small devices that disrupted the High Commander's attacks. Each movement, small and deliberate, added to the growing advantage the humans were beginning to seize. The High Commander's silver eyes narrowed, her four arms rising in a blur of motion. She had faced resistance before, but nothing like this. Her blasts had been powerful enough to destroy entire armies in minutes, yet this single human and his small contingent were holding their ground. The air crackled as she sent out a series of energy strikes, faster and sharper than anything the crowd had witnessed. Buildings shook, tiles cracked, some citizens fell to their knees, shielding themselves from the shockwaves. But the humans moved with purpose, anticipating the attacks and countering them with clever devices and tactical positioning. The human at the center did not attack. He did not strike or fire a weapon. Instead, he moved through the chaos with deliberate calm, deflecting energy blasts with simple gestures, sidestepping lethal waves, and using his surroundings to his advantage. His smile was faint but full of confidence, a quiet declaration that he would not fall. "You are clever," the High Commander said, her voice tight with frustration, each word accompanied by a burst of energy that rippled across the plaza. "But cleverness cannot overcome power." Hidden humans moved simultaneously, coordinating silently with hand signals and subtle gestures. They activated small devices that emitted interference waves, weakening the High Commander's attacks just enough to allow their leader to continue advancing. Every move was precise, every action calculated. Humans didn't rely on sheer strength. They relied on adaptability, intelligence, and teamwork. The High Commander launched herself into the air, spinning and slashing with energy waves from all four arms. She aimed to overwhelm the human entirely, but he anticipated the pattern, shifting with an almost preternatural awareness. He ducked beneath one blast, rolled through another, and in a fluid motion, returned to the center of the plaza. The crowd watched in astonishment. Citizens whispered to each other, amazed that a single human could move through attacks that should have destroyed him instantly. The hidden humans were no longer just observers. They were active participants in a coordinated effort, each playing their part without exposing themselves to danger. The plaza had become a chessboard, with the human as the master strategist. The High Commander hissed through clenched teeth. She had fought countless battles, yet nothing had prepared her for this. Each attack she launched was countered, avoided, or deflected with startling precision. She was used to fear and submission, but here was a species that refused both. Humans did not tremble, they did not beg, they acted, they adapted, they survived. The human reached into his armor again, pulling out a small device. It glowed faintly, emitting pulses that interacted with the High Commander's energy. She froze momentarily as her attacks faltered, sending arcs of uncontrolled energy into the plaza. Tiles cracked, metal groaned, and some of her energy struck nearby structures instead of the humans. "You rely on tricks," she snarled. "I will crush you with raw power." The plaza became a landscape of controlled chaos, energy crackling, debris flying, yet humans moving strategically among it. Each small victory, each avoided attack, chipped away at the High Commander's confidence. From the crowd, citizens began murmuring. Some had never seen a human before, yet now they were witnessing the impossible. One elder muttered, "They are not weak, not at all. They are extraordinary." Children peeked from behind buildings, eyes wide with awe. Even the High Commander's own followers began to hesitate, their loyalty tested as they watched a human defy the impossible. The human's devices hummed as he activated a wider energy field. It spread in a dome around him, shimmering and pulsing in rhythm with his breathing. The High Commander's attacks now collided with the dome, dissipating harmlessly before they could reach him. He moved deliberately, using the dome as cover, drawing her attacks away from the hidden humans. It was a perfect demonstration of teamwork, strategy, and the human ability to turn disadvantage into opportunity. "You are skilled," the High Commander admitted, her voice tight. "But skill alone will not defeat me." Each strike she made required adjustment, each movement calculated to avoid the interference. She had faced armies, fleets, and generals, yet here she was challenged by a single human supported by a small, clever team. The crowd gasped as she attempted a massive strike aimed directly at the human. Energy surged across the plaza, enough to level half the structures nearby. Yet the human anticipated the rhythm, using a series of jumps and rolls to avoid the blast. The hidden humans amplified his devices, sending pulses that further disrupted the strike. The energy slammed into the ground harmlessly, scattering debris and sending shards flying in every direction. The High Commander's fury became visible. Her attacks were no longer graceful or controlled, they were desperate. She realized that the human's advantage was not in strength, it was in strategy, coordination, and adaptation. Every attack she made was countered, every motion predicted. She was powerful, but she had underestimated intelligence and ingenuity. The human advanced through the chaos, devices humming softly at his belt. His calm expression contrasted sharply with the energy storm surrounding him. "Humans survive because we think, adapt, and act," he said, his voice carrying clearly despite the chaos. "We don't wait for luck, we create our own advantage." Each small action was part of a larger plan, a strategy that the High Commander could not fully anticipate. She tried to strike at them directly, but the humans remained hidden, coordinated, and elusive. The battle was not one of brute force alone. It was a demonstration of intelligence, courage, and resilience. Citizens began to cheer quietly. One alien shouted, "He cannot be defeated." Others followed, their voices blending into a chorus of awe. The High Commander's followers began to hesitate, some lowering their weapons as doubt crept into their minds. For the first time, fear was no longer the only emotion in the plaza. Hope, admiration, and amazement filled the air. The human at the center paused for a moment, scanning the battlefield. His eyes met the High Commander's, calm, unshaken, full of quiet confidence. "Your reign is not absolute," he said. "Humans do not kneel and we do not give up. Every challenge only makes us stronger, smarter, and more determined." Her attacks were still powerful, but now they were measured, cautious, almost reluctant. She realized she could no longer rely on fear, brute force, or intimidation alone. She was facing a species that refused to bend, that adapted to every attack, and that worked together in ways she had not anticipated. The human took a deliberate step forward, drawing her focus while hidden humans maneuvered to create more interference. The plaza became a landscape of calculated movements, intelligence, and resilience. Energy waves collided and fizzled, tiles cracked under controlled blasts, and the citizens watched in awe as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. The High Commander's silver eyes reflected both frustration and fascination. She had ruled through power and fear, yet here was a species that refused to be dominated. She realized that to defeat them, she would need to understand them, to anticipate not just their movements, but their intelligence, their adaptability, their courage. The human smiled faintly, his devices humming softly, coordinating with the hidden humans. "We do not need strength to be invincible," he said. "We use our minds, our hearts, and our will. That is what makes humans unstoppable." The High Commander, powerful beyond imagining, faced a force she could not crush with fear alone. Humanity had arrived, not as a species to be dominated, but as a force that refused submission. Citizens watched, spellbound. Children peeked from behind buildings, elders whispered in awe, and the hidden humans moved confidently, their coordination a testament to human ingenuity. The battle had become more than a fight. It was a demonstration of what humans were capable of when they refused to bend, when they relied on intelligence, strategy, and courage instead of fear. The human at the center smiled again, calm and unwavering. He had survived, adapted, and turned the tide. And though the High Commander was still a threat, the lesson had been made clear. Humans do not kneel. Humans endure. Humans fight with every tool at their disposal: intellect, courage, and unity. The twin suns began their slow descent in the sky, casting long shadows over the plaza. The humans' calm presence, the coordination of the hidden humans, and the awe of the citizens marked the beginning of a new chapter on Vorin 5. Humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated, that defiance and intelligence could stand against even the most powerful ruler. And the High Commander, for the first time, realized that victory would not come easily, if at all. The humans smiled faintly once more, devices humming, eyes scanning the battlefield. Around him, hidden humans moved with purpose. Across the plaza, citizens whispered in awe. And somewhere deep in her mind, the High Commander understood that this was only the beginning. Humanity had arrived on Vorin 5, and they would not bow. The plaza of Vorin 5 was unrecognizable. Shattered tiles, smoking debris, and scorched walls marked the chaos of battle, yet at the center stood the human, calm and unbowed. His devices hummed softly, sending protective pulses across the plaza, neutralizing much of the High Commander's destructive energy. The hidden humans moved with precision, coordinating silently as their leader drew the High Commander's attention. Every step, every action was deliberate, a demonstration of strategy over brute force. The High Commander's silver eyes flared with frustration. She had faced armies, destroyed planets, toppled governments, yet none of that experience prepared her for this. One human, unarmed and unbowed, had not only survived her attacks, but had begun to turn her own power against her. Every wave of energy she unleashed was weakened, diverted, or absorbed by the human's devices. Her frustration grew, and with it, a dangerous recklessness. "You are clever," she hissed, "but cleverness alone will not defeat me. And we always find a way." She realized she was not just facing one human, but an entire species whose ingenuity made them unpredictable and dangerous. The crowd gasped as the human ducked under a blast and rolled toward a toppled tower. Sparks flew as his movement passed through the energy wave, which then collided with the metal structure, sending a shockwave that rattled the plaza. Citizens backed away, some screaming in fear, but others were frozen in awe, watching as the impossible unfolded before them. "You adapt quickly," the High Commander said, her voice sharp and cutting through the chaos. "You learn faster than any army I've destroyed, but no matter how clever, you will not survive forever. I just need the right moment." Hidden humans responded in tandem, deploying interference pulses that weakened her attacks further. The High Commander's frustration became visible in her posture, her energy surging erratically. She had underestimated not just the individual human, but the species itself. Humans did not bow to fear, they did not submit, and they were capable of coordinating strategies that even the most disciplined alien armies struggled to anticipate. The humans signaled subtly to the hidden humans, who shifted positions with silent precision. Devices glowed, and energy fields began to form in arcs across the plaza, creating corridors of safety and zones of disruption. The High Commander unleashed a massive strike, a wave of energy so powerful that the plaza trembled and tiles cracked beneath the force. But the human was ready. He leapt into the path of the attack, letting the energy flow around him, and the interference devices amplified the effect, reducing the blast to a harmless ripple. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Even the most loyal followers of the High Commander began to hesitate, questioning what they had believed for years. One soldier muttered, "If one human can do this, what chance do we have?" Every strike she launched was countered by strategy, anticipation, and adaptability. She had faced geniuses, tacticians, and powerful enemies, but never a species whose strength lay in cunning, coordination, and resilience. The human advanced again, his movements calm, precise, unshaken by the storm around him. He reached into his armor and activated a device that expanded a protective field across the plaza, neutralizing a portion of her attacks. Hidden humans coordinated, moving through corridors of safety, deploying additional interference fields. Each action was perfectly timed, maximizing efficiency and minimizing risk. "You survive through tricks and devices," the High Commander spat. "That will not save you forever." The human had turned her own power into a tool to measure and counter her, and she was realizing, for the first time, that her strength alone could not ensure victory. Hidden humans pressed forward, creating interference zones that blocked portions of the High Commander's energy waves. Every attack she made required recalculation, and every misstep chipped away at her confidence. The human was teaching her a lesson. Raw power without adaptation could be countered, and intelligence combined with courage could shift the balance. The crowd watched in awe. Citizens whispered, some cheering quietly, others in disbelief. Children peeked from behind buildings, their eyes wide with wonder. The hidden humans moved strategically, their coordination flawless, their presence a testament to human ingenuity and bravery. Every movement of the central human was deliberate, a lesson in courage, strategy, and resilience. The High Commander's energy flared, brighter and more volatile than ever. She tried to unleash her most powerful strike, a wave of concentrated energy meant to crush everything in its path. But the human anticipated her rhythm. He moved to the side, devices pulsing, and the hidden humans amplified the effect, dispersing the attack harmlessly. Tiles cracked, debris flew, but the human remained unharmed, advancing steadily toward her. "You are remarkable," the High Commander admitted, her voice tight with frustration. "But you cannot win with cunning alone. Power is absolute." Hidden humans moved forward, positioning themselves to exploit gaps in her defenses. The plaza became a chessboard of strategy, every move calculated, every action coordinated. Citizens watched in awe as the impossible unfolded. A single human and a small group holding their own against the most powerful ruler of Vorin 5. The High Commander realized that this was no longer a simple confrontation. The humans had turned the battle into a demonstration of ingenuity and coordination. She had ruled through fear and destruction, but here was a species that refused both. They did not cower. They did not bow. They adapted. They survived. They acted. The human smiled faintly, devices humming softly, his presence calm and unwavering. "We do not need to kneel," he said. "We do not need to fear. We survive, adapt, and overcome." Tiles cracked, structures trembled, energy arcs collided and fizzled, yet the humans moved confidently, their coordination flawless. The High Commander's fury was visible, her attacks becoming more desperate. She had underestimated humans, and now she faced the consequences. Every strike required careful calculation, every movement anticipated and countered. The humans' calm defiance and the hidden human strategic actions were slowly shifting the balance. The human advanced through the chaos, eyes locked on the High Commander. "Humans endure," he said softly but clearly. "We act with intelligence, courage, and unity. That is why we cannot be broken." The human moved with precision, devices pulsing, and the hidden humans reinforced the protective fields. The attack struck the plaza, shattering tiles and sending shards flying, but he emerged unharmed, advancing steadily. Citizens cheered, some silently, some openly. The impossible was happening before their eyes. One human had turned fear into awe, chaos into strategy, and power into a challenge to be met with intelligence and courage. The High Commander realized, for the first time, that victory would not come easily, if at all. The human's smile remained faint but steady. His devices hummed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Hidden humans moved with silent precision, creating a web of strategy and defense. The plaza was a battlefield, but one governed not by brute force alone, but by intellect, courage, and adaptation. Humanity had arrived, and they would not bow. The twin suns continued their descent, casting long shadows over the plaza. The humans' calm presence, the hidden humans' coordination, and the crowd's awe marked the beginning of a new chapter on Vorin 5. Humanity had proven they were not to be underestimated. They had turned a battle of power into a demonstration of ingenuity, courage, and resilience. The High Commander, for the first time, realized she faced a force that could not be conquered through fear or strength alone. The human's eyes scanned the battlefield, calm and unwavering. Hidden humans moved strategically, devices pulsing, interference fields active. Citizens whispered in awe. And somewhere deep in her mind, the High Commander understood that the humans were not just surviving. They were beginning to dominate, not through power alone, but through intelligence, courage, and unity. The human smiled faintly once more, calm and confident. Around him, the hidden humans continued their coordinated actions. The High Commander's attacks were still dangerous, but now they were measured, cautious, almost reluctant. She was learning, adapting, and beginning to respect her opponent, even as her frustration grew. The plaza trembled, the crowd watched, and the humans advanced steadily. The battle had shifted, the momentum changing in favor of strategy, resilience, and courage. Humanity had arrived, and they would not kneel. They would endure, adapt, and overcome. The High Commander faced a force she had never encountered before, and the story of Vorin 5 was about to be rewritten.